picture I saw you, I recognize that face. I can't forget you. Where am I? Waiting in the ocean, I got someplace to be. Falling far behind you. Who am I? Could you show me how to get it back to good? 'Cause I don't know how, but I know that I should. I try so hard, I never knew why. Where am I to find?
Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Puckett. And this is Nanu, who we met in the first video. A 15-year-old blind and deaf dog that I had recently adopted from Nashville Humane, who I questioned at the time if she had any quality of life left. At 15 years old, with terminal heart disease, skin infections, hair falling out, and arthritis so bad she could barely stand up. But something about this dog spoke to me after I saw them post her on their Instagram page. I mean, look at that face. So I talked to my dogs about adopting another member of the family, and we spoke for a long time to see if they would be okay with it, and I learned a very important lesson. That they couldn't understand me, so I was going to adopt the dog anyway. And 48 hours after seeing her posted on social media, I went to Nashville Humane and took Nanu home. I had never had a dog with this many problems before. One that might not be able to walk with us. One that might only have a couple of months or even a couple of weeks left to live. But I thought it would be a nice thing to do to bring her home and make those last couple of weeks or last couple of months her best ever. The only thing I really wanted to do was make sure that she felt like she was a part of our family. That she was one of us. One of the Pucketts. And everything else might fall into place. So the first week we did a lot of adventuring together. Putting her in the stroller and taking her all over Nashville, Tennessee. And she started to get a little bit closer to my other dogs by doing this. It was pretty tough in the stroller at first, but now she seems to love it. Not having to walk the same few blocks every day, now she can see a much larger part of the world. But the walks were definitely the hardest part. A dog who could barely stand up when she came home. And this was the first time I even saw her move. It seemed like every step was more painful than the last. And being blind didn't help her navigate too well. This was going to be a big transition for our family. Because a thing that my dogs love to do more than anything in the world is run. Their runs are over 20 miles now and over 65 miles a week. So I thought I could apply some of those same strategies I used to train them into getting Nanu to walk more than a block at a time. And we started with her diet, doing mainly raw meats, chicken, beef, bison, and raw vegetables, with a mixture of a few different high-protein, high-fat dog foods. She also got on most of the same supplements, everything hemp and algae related, and something I would recommend to any senior or athletic dog, and that was plenty of CBD. And eventually she started walking a little bit better, more confidently that I was going to lead her, and more confidently that she could walk as far as I could, until eventually she just looked like she was walking like a normal dog. And a couple of weeks after she came home, she even went on her very first 1 mile walk. The stroller helped get her around town when she didn't feel like walking. It's been a great help. And it also allowed us to get our very first family photo together. This is on the background of my work computer. Because at first she didn't enjoy the walks very much, and seemed to always be walking with this face. But the longer we kept at it, the more she was making this face, and started having the time of her life. The transition to the outside world wasn't as tough as I thought it was going to be. But the transition into our home, well, that was another matter. Not only getting her to interact with my other two dogs in a positive way, but also having a blind and deaf dog in the house created a lot of other challenges. I'm a bachelor. I live alone and I don't entertain people. And oftentimes my house is a complete mess. And in the first couple of days, Nana learned to navigate my house by bumping into things and trying not to bump into them again. But if I were to leave something out in the middle of the floor, like a ukulele or a suitcase, she could trip over it and seriously injure herself. So a positive consequence that's come out of this adoption is she's taught me to be a lot more cleanly in my own home and make sure that everything's picked up off the floor so she knows how to move around comfortably. And I think she's making me a better person in a lot more ways than just that. Getting my other two dogs to see her as a family member was not easy at first, because we got a lot of this. But Mrs. Puckett did the same thing when puppy PJ came home. It took her a long time to adapt and actually love him and accept him as a member of the family. And now they've spent over a year every single second together as brother and sister. And after a couple of months, she started grooming him as one of her own. And now I don't think either one of them could imagine their life without each other. And that's what I was hoping would happen with Nanu as well. That eventually, we would have enough adventures together, and we would spend enough time together inside the house, that she would feel like part of the family. And we saw that first step come to fruition in the first video, when Mrs. Puckett started grooming her for the first time, just like she used to do to PJ. And I'm happy to report that a few weeks later, none of that has changed. It seems like every time we're all curled up into bed together, neither one of them can go to sleep until she gets groomed, whether she likes it or not. They have gotten so close over the last 4 weeks together. It's been an amazing transformation. And even if Mrs. Puckett was quick to accept her, PJ's been a little different. Because she's blind and deaf, she often bumps into both dogs when they're walking around the house, and that can scare my little dog sometimes. But they're getting better and better at this, especially the more time they spend outside in open spaces. For him to see that she's not a threat. She just has difficulties getting around. And I regret not being able to find her 15 years ago, because I think she would have made the most amazing long-distance runner. She did have some issues accepting so much love and affection right off the bat from me, and it made me question whether or not she had either of those in her previous life. But that situation was no stranger to me, as Mrs. Puckett was neglected and in and out of shelters and even wandering the streets of Nashville, Tennessee for a good portion of her life before I met her at 4 years old. So I knew that it was going to be a tough road for Nanu to accept all of that. And her face in some of the early photographs proves that. But I just made sure to be near her at all times, to show her affection even when we were out on adventures. And eventually I think she started to love her new role and her new family. Everything outside and inside, even all the love and affection. I was worried about adopting Nanu for many reasons, mostly wondering if I could give her any type of quality of life, if she would be in too much pain, or how in the world I would cope when she finally passes away, which might not be too far in the future. But there's one thing I never considered in the 48 hours between seeing her on social media and adopting her. And that's just how much joy she has brought into my life in 1 month. How excited I am to come home and to take care of her every day after work. Being able to watch her bloom into her own personality and be comfortable in a new, loving home. And watching her face on these adventures when she gets to experience new things every single day. And especially, watching her go from a dog that can barely stand to taking confident steps 3 times a day in Nashville. And growing into a family with my 2 dogs. So if you've ever thought about adopting a senior dog, or being a hospice home for a dog that doesn't have much time left, I'm here to tell you not to think about all the negative things going into it. Because you'll never be able to imagine all the positive things that will come out of it. She has made my life so much more complete in the 1 month that she's been home. And I love every second that we spend together. Even in the stroller, walking 2 different dogs. Every single walk, every single mile has been filled with so much love that she's even been given a new nickname, Nana Puckett. Welcome home, Nana. Thank you so much for finding us.